Hey, do you want to come over and make a pot of tea, bring your favorite crystals? We could talk about our birth charts, spirits, the latest house spells we've been doing. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm that witch next door. Hello, neighbor. Welcome back to another episode of That Witch podcast. It is that time again, my friend. It's time for another Shadow Chats, of course. Ashley Michelle, will you say hello to the neighborhood for us?
Hello, 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 and this fine evening.
It is seriously so good to be on here talking about this Scorpio New Moon. Just to let everybody in for a little bit. This is a lot more how we usually record Astrology After Dark. We usually don't record Shadow Chats this way, but it's like late at night. Ashley and I are both like fresh showered, fresh face, just raw and real, coming at you in the middle of the night for Scorpio New Moon. Could that be any better?
I love Scorpio season. I love fall. I love Samhain. I love it all.
Yes. First piece of advice, show up as yourself. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very true. Scorpio gives no fucks. Scorpio is always going to show up as itself.
Yes, 100%. So let's, without further ado, first and foremost, for the people, if you want to bring this up on your phone, on your app, on your website, whatever it is, this is the new moon in Scorpio. That is happening today, the day you're listening to this. If you're listening on release day, November 1st, 2024 at 8:47 a.m. Eastern time. Moon and sun are both going to be at 9 degrees of Scorpio. And with that, Ash, I want to ask you, where are you at? How are you feeling in this, getting into this Scorpio new moon energy? How are you feeling so far?
I mean, I'm all about the transformation. I'm all about personal development and deep levels of self-awareness, just because it's done so much for my life as is, and there's still so much more to go. And so I just feel like studying astrology for as long as we both have at this point, you kind of know what to expect from scorpionic energy. And you know that if you utilize the energy right, it can be a really beautiful healing space for you. If you want it to be, it can also be quite a destructive place for you if that's what you choose. I think the point is to take responsibility in the choice. And we make the choice every day through our relationships and through the micro decisions that we make, all the way up to the macro decisions that we make. We're making a choice in how we want to be a part of the transformation. But either way, it's going to happen because that's what the energy does.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you're bringing up a couple things that instantly go off for me. I love this.
Yeah.
Instantly. So number one, I love this because if you wanted to, if you choose, this is a huge, huge, huge piece of it. If you want to make those decisions, if you want to make those commitments, if you want to make those investments and then keep them, the transformation is yours, friend. The transformation happens no matter what, just like you said. And I remind people the same concept all the time where I'm like, I usually talk about this with grounding. I'm like, listen, there's a natural amount of energy given and needed at any given time. So especially when this is why I explain to people why it's so important to ground after ritual. I'm like, when you're raising so much energy, when you're raising so much power and working in so much high energy, this natural balancing back out has to happen because you're borrowing that. It's got to go somewhere else after. It's not yours permanently. There's so many pieces of evidence in our world that shows that nothing is permanent, right? So you're not keeping this by any means. And the universe in and of itself is neutral. So it's going to take it or rebalance that energy without giving a fuck about how it does it because it's not. You are the one that can come in and use your intention. You're the one that can make the choice, and that can change everything about that practice. And then what I want to really go off of with you here is when you were talking about these micro decisions and how they reflect and connect to our macro decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I you instantly triggered for me what I think about when I think about the Taurus Scorpio axis, and
Yeah.
especially their traditional houses that they ruled, the second and the eighth house,
Yeah.
and how those work together. This idea
Mm-hmm.
of like, if you want it, you can build it. You can make those choices. Like,
Mm-hmm.
practical Earth Taurus shows us this. And I feel like Scorpio comes in and shows us that in the long term.
Yeah.
When you think about this, is going to be like big, profound question. When you think about Scorpio's role in your life, do you, how has that like, how has it transformed for you? So when you look at
Mm.
how you used to embody or experience
Yeah.
Scorpio energy, does that make sense?
It makes
Compared
total
to
sense.
now? Okay.
It makes
Yes.
total sense. I mean, well, I think we should start with the fact that if somebody were to tell me that I was going to marry like a triple Scorpio, I would have laughed in their face. Marrying somebody that has such strong scorpionic placements threw me the fuck off. So we'll start there. And then even working with Lilith, who has been incredibly close to me and incredibly integral in my work. And then discovering that my Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio also threw me off. When I had first started studying astrology, I was only identifying with the Sagittarius sun that I am and kind of leaning into the pop culture around Scorpio and being like, oh, those Scorpios, the side eye emoji. And as I got deeper into my study and I realized all these deep, profound connections that I had with Scorpionic energy, not to mention the depth that Scorpio has and the internal work that Scorpio loves to sit in, like myself, and how Scorpios love to be alone and they have this innate ability to really be so internal and poetic and powerful and magical all at the same time. The energy really is it's transmutation. And I know in my weight loss journey, I definitely had to get incredibly scorpionic. I had to be really, really honest with where I felt. When I say where I felt, I mean like the visual I get is this like 1 to 10 scale about how I felt about my body, especially at my heaviest. And I had to stop putting this mask on. I had put this mask on at a point, like, I'm fine where I am. I'm fine. Like, I'm still beautiful. I'm still doing what I need to do. I'm still smart. I'm still this. I'm just 320 pounds. I'm fine. I wasn't fucking fine. I wasn't fine at all. And I've said this before, that's not to knock anybody who's fine at that weight, but I wasn't. And it was only when I got into deep conversation with Lilith and the shadow and the power of transformation was I able to have some very raw and honest conversations with myself about where I desired to go in life and why I wasn't there yet. And those lessons are still coming through. Scorpio energy really holds such depth and lessons, and I just think personal development truly is the way to happiness in so many ways. I will die on that hill. But like everybody, we should all be trying to like really see where we are versus where we desire to be and why aren't we there? What sorts of things are we doing or not doing that is not aiding and getting us there, right? Because we are all magical. We do create our own reality and we all can truly have whatever it is we desire, but we get in our own fucking way. And that's not to say that Scorpio doesn't do that. Scorpio can do that, but that's like the lower octave of Scorpio, just like there's lower octaves of every sign.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I I feel like where Scorpio sets itself free is when it embraces the full spectrum of emotions and it
Yeah.
stops hyper prioritizing like happiness and being okay,
Mm-hmm.
because of course we're going to crave that, And the fact that we crave that makes us chase things, should theoretically help us chase things that are good for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, hello, Scorpio, who also teaches us about overindulgence, addiction,
Mm-hmm.
abuse of power,
Mm-hmm.
manipulate, right?
Diddy.
Which, yeah, exactly. These things that come from trying to obtain what you desire, right? Trying to
Right.
obtain like happiness or whatever.
Right.
And Scorpio finally grows through and breaks free of that when they learn how to be okay not fucking being okay. They learn how to
Mm-hmm.
be okay with being uncomfortable. When they learn how to accept that they're not going to be good at everything the
Yeah.
first time, or that they're going to embarrass themselves sometimes, and they're going
Yeah.
to have all that shitty feeling that comes along with those experiences.
I
And if
love
it
that you said that.
uses,
Because I always
yeah.
say that Scorpios hate to be embarrassed. That's like a weird Scorpionic
Oh,
trait. Yeah, yeah, I love that you said that.
first of all, I have a Leo ascendant that squares my entire Scorpio stellium. So embarrassment, super not my thing, and something I'm like cursed with.
Yeah, yeah.
I had to lean into it. I have a Gemini retrograde Mars. I had to be like, well,
Yeah,
you're going to
forgot about
hate
that,
being
yeah.
embarrassed, and you're going to embarrass yourself lots.
All the time. Right, right.
Really a lot. Really a lot. I have to lean into it. That's what I had to learn.
You
I
have
had
to
to
lean
be
into it.
okay with that happening to me. And then I had to have a kid and be okay with it happening to her. And that's even
Yeah,
harder.
I'll
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God. I'll
It's
bet.
even harder. Think
Yeah.
about that. Even if you're not a parent, the people that you love, it's even harder letting them fail, get embarrassed, get hurt, right? And we want to control. That's Scorpio, by the way. I can
Yeah.
manipulate this. I can fix it. I can make it
Yes.
better. That's
Yes.
Scorpio.
Very much so, Scorpio. I see those traits in my husband all the time. Like, especially when it comes to that whole being embarrassed thing, like trying to cover up a mistake that he made because he feels stupid. And like, that's where my Sag really comes out because I don't really care. But I do
Yeah.
care when I see that he cares. I'm like, okay, like it's fine. You didn't know where you were going. It's fine. Like, and he's over there like, no, I did. I meant to go this way. I meant to go this way.
Oh,
20
and it
minutes out of the way.
kills.
It's
You're like,
fine.
it's okay. Sweet love. Sweet, wonderful man.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I know.
It makes it worse. Makes you feel
It
even
makes
worse.
it so worse because like you see right through it and you're like, can you stop?
Oh my God. That's the sweetest. That is the perfect fucking example you could have brought to this
Oh God,
show.
I've gotten used to
Oh
it.
my God.
But I'm like, I'm just gonna let him think he got that one.
Yes, yes. Oh my God, I love this. So this is like, honestly, when most of us show up to Scorpio New Moon each year, we're already like, okay, Scorpio season, what the fuck? Because that's just how it goes. We look forward to this time of year for a lot of us. We really look forward to this time of year. And then inevitably, most of us are like, oh my God, like whether you're trying to or not, the inner work finds you.
It does.
During this season.
It does.
It does.
Every fucking time.
Oh,
and like,
yeah. There's
if you're
no escape.
spiritual, it's definitely finding you. Like if you're like into all of this, it's finding you. You're better off being a muggle around this season if you don't want to do some soul work.
Honestly, that like ignorance is bliss time of year.
Yeah.
Totally. Which you'll watch. Now I dare all of you. Now you won't be able to unsee that. And you'll watch everyone living in ignorance is bliss right now. And then that will double make you mad because you're like, why do I have to be taking the high road? Why do I have to be the one doing the work? Yeah.
Right. It'll also doubly like show you the work. And it will also show the work that other people aren't doing because just because those muggles are living in ignorance doesn't mean that soul lessons aren't finding them. Just means they're less aware of it. That's really what it means, which is unfortunate because repetition.
Exactly. Saturn don't care how many times it takes. Nope. Doesn't matter. Many times as you need.
As many times as it takes. And that's why all these planets and all these planetary energies and zodiacal signs, they do really work together. There's a reason why every single house, right, is like a theme of life. And going back to the housing, when you were talking about the Taurus Scorpio axis, I was thinking about this idea of like the second house and the what is mine, and then the eighth house, my shadow, like my shadow is mine. You know, there's power in that, and realizing that like shadow work doesn't have to have this negative. It's not supposed to be this negative connotation. Like, I am my shadow is me. Like, we are it, you know?
Yes.
I think the sooner that we realize that, the more we can really extend our reach and be those light workers that we're all working to be.
Oh, yeah. So you just like perfectly set up my next question that I thought of. As soon as you said that, how would you advise folks to navigate working with, actually, first, how would you advise folks to first begin to understand and then work with their eighth house? Because I think that working with houses feels
Mhm.
more advanced than it has to, because you can
Mhm.
break it down and make it as simple and
That's
beginner as
it.
you need to.
Yeah.
But because it's talked about in so many, well, let's be honest, kind of deep, dark, and scary ways, and a lot of time it's referenced. How
Mhm.
would you advise, especially beginners, how to first start even understanding the eighth house, and then how to start working with that house?
Mhm. Well, first off, let's take understanding the eighth house. Educate yourself. There's a Sagittarius coming out in me, right? So, like, listen to podcasts like these, read books. One of my favorite books is The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need. It's just a great book. It's a great reference book for astrologers. Learn about the eighth house. Simple keywords here right now: shadow work, magic, witchcraft, brujeria, inherited money, business. Those are keywords for eighth house right there that you can kind of play with and toy with. And then working with it, I would learn what planets you have in the eighth house. So, like, for example, if somebody has Jupiter in the eighth house, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So, all those keywords that I just listed, Jupiter is going to make them even bigger. So, maybe you might be a bit of a curmudgeon. And I say that with love. And I say that because if you're somebody that is still navigating the lower octaves of some of these energies, and you have Jupiter in the eighth house, you might be prone to moodiness if you don't kind of really know what's happening there. Mars, Venus, we can go on and on and on, right? Every planet in each house is going to, I don't want to say dictate how that house functions in your life, but essentially it is going to kind of dictate how that house functions. Then we can go even deeper to, conjunctions in the eighth house and things of that nature. But I would really start there. The eighth house in its entirety, to make it simpler or easier, it's the house of magic. It's the house of witchcraft. Brujeria. Light some candles, light some incense, get some crystals, meditate, connect with that part of your soul that is really into the work. Everybody defines magic differently, but I think if you all are listening, you know enough to know how Dani and I define magic. And, magic doesn't have to be something where it's like, you have to have 8,000 different ingredients of something to make magic work. You could have a bottle of Florida water and your favorite crystal and call it good. And connecting with that part of your soul in an ideal situation, it makes you feel like you're being called back home. And then, you get a good hold on that, or a good hold on what that feels like. And then you can go even deeper, right? And something that just came to me, the planet Venus. Venus is in the eighth house. Maybe you work with that planet on your altar and you create an altar to Venus, or an altar to Jupiter, or an altar to Mars, right? It all works within itself. An astrologer is not just an astrologer, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Astrology is only as good to us if we like embody what we're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
That's
to
what I
make it
keep
real.
saying,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what are we learning all this for if we're not understanding the why part of it? The eighth
Exactly.
house can be a really beautiful house to understand how you move. Like, what's in my eighth house? Let me make sure before I speak on it. But yeah, I have Venus in my eighth house, but maybe that's why that was coming up for me. Pluto's still going to be fucking forever. But right now, Pluto is transiting my Venus. Like, it's right on top of my Venus right now.
Oh, dope.
It's been that way
Nice.
for a
That's a
while.
great
Not
one.
just,
That's a great
oh,
one.
God.
So I love this. There's so many places that you can go.
Yeah,
And one of like
play.
my favorite places to start too, especially if like like you might have been studying for a while now that a lot of these planetary reference that we're throwing off, like you're speaking
on
the
it, yeah.
and you might be listening to this and barely starting out and being like, this is a totally different language right now.
Mhm.
So if that is you, if that's the case, look up your real chart, okay? The real one. It looks something like this. It'll be a
Not the
circle.
real
It'll look
one.
really
They said the
intimidating
real
and all
one.
that. And that's okay. Yeah. The real, don't get on what's it called?
CoStar.
And thank you.
We don't like CoStar.
No, I
The real
do not. And I'm
astrologers will tell you to not use CoStar.
trying to be mean and also use at
Fuck
least something
CoStar.
else in addition. If you
Yeah.
really love it that much, at least use something in addition. Or I
I've
think
seen
they
CoStar be wrong
finally
so many
put
times.
the chart on there. But my issue with CoStar is even if they have the chart on there, at least for years, people would send me a screenshot of the table they do use, and it will literally not list your empty houses. And I'm like, hello, that's kind of important effing information. It's wildly important because your whole chart, my friend, this circle is all of you. To not see your empty houses would be like going like this and going, here's most of you. We're saying that these other parts are insignificant, which is literally not true because planets transit there all year long and activate those empty houses. So I don't care if you have an empty house. Everybody has empty houses. It's fine.
You need the empty houses.
You need to know about
a lot of empty houses. Yeah.
You need to know about it. Lots of people do. It's not uncommon. Now, the reason I say this is because you want to look at your chart. You want to look at the 8th house and the first line of the 8th house, which is the last line of the 7th house. You want to see what sign that's in. And that will tell you what the ruler of your first house is. If you use whole sign, this is really straightforward. If you use Placidus, use the exact method that I just walked you through. If you have the question of, I have this sign that rules it, but this sign is actually like really occupying it more, then what you do is you say, okay, this sign rules it, and that's combined with the flavor of this sign that's also there. And what Ash is talking about with our planets and our aspects that are in those houses, or the conversation between the planets, this is just adding layers. And it sounds really intimidating. I promise you, after working with it for even just a short while, it's going to make so much more sense.
And you want the layers after,
you
like, once you get
the layers, trust me. Oh, you want the layers. So if you're on the very first layer, start with the ruler of that house. And I would recommend working with the energy of that zodiac sign during the Scorpio New Moon. Like that's plenty. Because Scorpio is the traditional ruler of the 8th house. It might not be what rules the 8th house in your chart, but it is traditionally associated with the 8th house. So it is a way of honoring or working with Scorpio season. That's why Ash and I are going into
very good
8th
point.
house.
You know, what's fascinating is the first line of my 8th house is in Capricorn. The goat
that makes sense.
structure. That makes so much goddamn sense.
Yeah,
Capricorn,
totally
we were just talking about Saturn too before we got online. Okay, Spirit, we hear you. Let me write
my
this down.
8th house is ruled by Pisces, and my only placement in there is my moon, which for anybody that does speak the language a little bit, exactly hits a trine 17 degrees to 17 degrees with my Scorpio Pluto, which is in my 4th house.
Girl, you dog, honey.
Super dark. Makes a lot of sense. So 8th house work, really beautiful this time of year and always for personal development. And I love this idea that Ash brought up of getting in touch with your magic.
Yeah.
Don't forget that when you get in touch with your magic, like it or not, my friend, the growth work finds you.
It sure does.
Part of it.
Babes, you know, even if it's just pulling a tarot card, even if it's just doing some like glamour magic, like dressing up like what you think the Empress would dress up as. We don't need to make things, we don't need to make things super complicated. You know, at its core, out of all 12 of the zodiac signs, I would argue that Scorpio is probably the most magical. You know, we've got Lilith in there. Doing Lilith work is absolutely fantastic. You know, any of that stuff. Lilith like loves Scorpio. there's so many things that you could do, whether you want to go big or whether you want to just do something small. But, the point is to remember that we are multidimensional individuals and beings, and we remember that sort of stuff by doing the soul work. Like that, I think is the point that we're getting at here,
Yes, exactly. Is that this is Scorpio is one of the many archetypes in our world that shows us like you have a potential. It's probably beyond your wildest dreams, and you will have to work to reach it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, you don't have to do the work.
Right. Right. You can be mediocre. We don't want mediocre, honey.
You can't. Or you can invest that energy into other stuff. There's a lot of Scorpio, like there's a lot of lower octave Scorpio energy in, say, Hollywood, for example, where this might look on the surface like success. And then we learn about these people in their lives and you're like, oh my God, that's pure suffering and hell of a life to have to be living.
I've been on a Diddy deep dive all of Scorpio season. I can't stop. I just watched another video today. It's fascinating to me to watch this Scorpioning and like the lowest octave you could think of. It's just, as an astrologer, this is an amazing case study. Like, it's horrible what he did, but the case study is like,
yes,
insane. It's insane. Like, astrologers are going to be talking about this for fucking ever because my God, is just an insane case study. So that's another thing too. If you guys are curious or like budding astrologers, I highly, highly, highly suggest you listen to the Astrology After Dark episode that Dani and I did breaking down P. Diddy's birth chart, then do a deep dive on what's going on with P. Diddy, and you'll understand why I'm saying this. I've never seen a Scorpio do more Scorpionic things in my motherfucking life. It's insane.
Oh, yeah. Scorpio's greatest enemy is itself. It's its own greatest destructor.
Yeah.
Period.
Every time.
Through its own actions. Like that here, that's why abuse of power is one of its top shadow qualities. It is its own destructor. Like
Scorpio loves power, but will abuse power just as quickly. Yeah. They make amazing leaders, but they can pick it up.
If we're on the Taurus Scorpio axis, we are aware of greed, overindulging, like taking too much and not giving enough. Like and
power dynamics, control.
Yes. And because Taurus operates more in the short term, like we talked about, and Scorpio is in the long game. That's why this P. Diddy shit is like
it's crazy.
Alice's fucking rabbit hole, bro. That's why it's because it's been going on. Just so everyone knows, if you don't go listen to that episode, just so everyone knows, especially in the research Ashley and I did, I want it to be on record that I am at least one of the people that get this. This shit did not start with Diddy.
No.
He ran with it. Do not get me wrong. He committed and he ran with it, but he did not start this shit. And when you research it and learn how long and far back this shit
is fucking dark. And we're not done yet.
Dark. And that's so Scorpio. That's what we're saying. Like
that's so Scorpio. And going back to what I was saying, how all these energies work together. This whole stuff is also the Pluto and Aquarius that I'm sure you guys have heard us like say till we're blue in the face. This idea of what's done in the dark is going to come to the light. Like, it didn't start with Diddy and it's not going to end with Diddy. Like, we are just scratching the surface.
They're hoping it ends with Diddy. That's why they're making it so about him. Yes, anyone involved in this long chain, of course, wants everyone to believe, oh, look at this terrible person, but good, we got the bad guy. Don't worry. This... Dude, this
Remember,
is
Pluto rules politics, people.
Diddy
and government.
Was an apprentice and then became this. Trust me, he was mentored in this. Okay,
by Clive Davis. I learned that too. I'm like dropping my headphones. I'm getting so excited. By Clive Davis, the same motherfucker who was involved with Britney, Whitney, Aretha Franklin. Guys, this shit's real. And astrologers have been talking about this for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
this is, not only is this Diddy shit, this is a really good example of anybody that's like, what's Pluto and Aquarius like? This is what it's like. This is what it's like. This is exactly what we're talking about. Aquarius gives Capricorn, when Pluto was in Capricorn, Capricorn gives more fucks about power dynamics.
That's it.
Aquarius gives no
Let it
fucks about
all burn
authority.
down.
Yep. Oh, it
Mhm.
doesn't give any. There is no hierarchy in Aquarius. No. Level playing field. Level
Yeah.
fucking playing field for the next
Uh-huh.
30 years. So this is why, honestly, Scorpio is one of, if not potentially the best teacher of accountability, because
Yeah.
it's its own worst enemy or its
Mhm.
greatest strength.
Yeah.
If you do the work, it shows. If you live with
Mhm.
intention and integrity and accountability, it's gonna fucking show.
Mhm.
That's not the sexy, flashy way, and I get that.
Yeah.
But that's why Scorpio is the raw and the real.
That
It's
was a great
so,
point. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Because
so,
I mean,
so
scorpions
just,
are kind of ugly and creepy crawly and gross and ugh.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, they're powerful little creatures. You know, they've been around
Oh,
for a
yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
You know?
And yeah, this is a really, really excellent time to stop lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Pay attention to where you're pretending and where you're
Mhm.
faking it. Because we all do it in
Yeah,
little
we all
ways. We
do
all
it,
do it to
right.
make it easier in little ways. Pay attention to where you're doing it. And ask why and if it's actually even fucking necessary. Because once in
Yeah.
a while, like, whatever, sure. Be a little nice because it's nicer
Mhm.
for the day. But for the most part, ask yourself where you're faking it.
Yeah. And it might
And
be hard. It might be uncomfortable, but that's where the growth
oh,
is.
yeah,
The growth is in the uncomfortability.
exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Get okay with not being okay. And again, that goes for the people outside of you as well.
Yeah.
When we're constantly trying to fucking fix everything for fucking everybody,
I was going to say that might be the harder
that's their
conversation
shit.
for a lot of folks.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
really with themselves, but, you know, for people that they let into their lives and boundaries that are constantly being crossed, especially as we go into holiday season. I know that's a big conversation amongst mystics and, you know, creating boundaries with family members and things of that nature. But, you know, there is also a reason why we work with Scorpio season before we get into this like crazy intense holiday season, at least on this side of the world. For some of us, it may be a conversation on boundaries that need to happen with the people that we love. And, you know, we've talked about boundaries in this podcast before. There's a way to keep boundary making demure. It doesn't always have to be like, fuck you, you crossed my boundary.
Of course.
You know?
Of course. Or end all be all shit. Of course.
Right. I think that's a misconception when we get on the conversation of boundaries in the spiritual community, that it's often presented that it has to be like that. When there's more than one way to create a boundary with somebody that is healthy and respectable and demure. I'm obsessed with that word.
Absolutely. And boundaries, Scorpio, just like we're talking about, is all about being honest with yourself. Be honest with situations where your boundaries aren't being respected. Look at where those people are not respecting it and look at where you're the one not maintaining your boundaries.
Yeah, very good point.
And you're
too.
sending mixed signals.
Yeah.
Like there is some massive reflection, I think, that happens this particular time of year.
I would agree.
Where we're so triggered by other people. You should pay attention to those triggers. And it's not to be a dick, but usually it is reflecting something. It's usually reflecting something that
Like
needs
9
to be
times out of
worked out.
10, 9.8 times out of 10. Like when we're triggered by somebody, there's something else going on that we don't want to take ownership for or learn about or know about. And again, why do the fucking work if we're not going to do the fucking work?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. There is a lot of ways that triggers can show up, and it's not just like this person's pissing me off. Like, where are you judging people? Like, where are you being a dick? Like, that's a hard one because we usually feel very justified when we're being a dick.
We sure do. We sure do. Yeah.
We sure do. And this, if you want to talk about the hard getting honest with yourself thing, that's something. So I work with Hades a lot. And like one of my last times I was meditating with and journaling with Hades, I think I was doing it for the beginning of Scorpio season this year. So just really recently. And it was very, very clear. I think I even shared it in this week's Moon Day episode of be willing to look at where you're judging people, because there is something yourself is communicating to you through that for sure. And I think that's a lot of where we can see the people who are living ignorantly, where we can see that in a lot of people. And so, like, don't be that. Be willing to look at that for yourself, and be willing, like today I got really pissed at some dude who was just like creeping his way through a left turn at the light, and I was behind him and was just like, dude. And I was like, you better, I think I said something like, you better have like an animal or a kid or something you're trying not to spill in there. I was all pissed. And then it dawned on me instantly. I was like, or maybe I could just assume that it is that, instead of assume that he's trying to inconvenience me. Yes, exactly. Sometimes it's like minor little things like that. Like be willing to step out of even like your habitual little like Scorpio stink lash outs.
Yeah. One thing I always say that I've kind of adopted, especially this year, is like, maybe it's actually not even about me. Like we have this habit of thinking that like it's about us. Like, you know, somebody's whispering, they're whispering about us. Something happened, it's about us. They didn't show up because of us. Like we do this as like weird, like spiritual beings humaning of internalizing everything that it's about us, when 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with us. Like we are not that important in that other person's world. They're not thinking about us.
No.
You know, I really adopted that this year, and it's really brought down my anxiety.
It's such a good point. Oh my God, that's such a good one to bring up, because I am horrible culprit of that. I am horrible culprit of like beating myself up and assuming it's because of somebody or something else, especially like if I have to text somebody that I'm late or anything. It could be so many things. It could be so many things. And I'll be like, they're mad at me. They sent it this way. They looked at me this way. So they're angry. And I bothered them. And I would, and like, usually always, actually, let's be honest. It not since I was like, I don't know, around catty girls in high school, I guess. But other than that, like my own, and I was a catty girl too. I'm not like, you know, I'm just being like back when I was in, but now as an adult, when no one has time for shit like that, nobody. If you need to hear that on this Scorpio new moon, nobody's probably
that's for you, boo. Whoever needed to hear that, that is for you. Because we both get that. I can relate to everything you're saying.
You're a Cancer rising.
I'm a Cancer rising. I'm a Cancer rising. So like literally being like the crab, just internalizing everything like that. And I've realized over time, like, people are too busy worried about themselves to be worried about little old me being 5 or 10 minutes late. Like the world is not going to implode on itself. It's okay.
No. Yes.
You know,
it's really crazy what our programming has, like how it's manifested now. The little things that you're like,
that you notice.
I just live in like permanent punishment of myself sometimes in my mindset. And I'll be like, dude, like
what the fuck?
No one feels this way about you. This is like totally unnecessary thought pattern.
100%. And that's where the shadow work comes in. So even like, you know, I love that you even brought that up, because that's a beautiful way to do shadow work that doesn't involve like a bunch of candles and a bunch of like roses and shit like that. Just being that self-reflective and recognizing, hold on, this is my programming speaking right now. This isn't actually how I want to feel, how I desire to feel, the energy I desire to exude. This is programming. You know, it's a great way to do shadow work.
They teach you in psychology our neural pathways, the things we've done over and over again, the things we've thought over and over again. We're just used to thinking that way. It takes time to think about something a new way. It takes time to realize certain behaviors in ourselves and do something about it, and recognize, especially this Scorpio season, recognize that even just like pausing and stopping and making the realization, you did a big fucking thing. That's big. Yeah, exactly. That is shadow work. Again, I love that you bring that up. That's it right then and there. If you could just like use some of your like thought time for pausing once in a while and thinking about things in a different way, shadow work.
Taking a beat, you know. which really ties so well into this new moon in Scorpio. New moon, new beginnings. Scorpio being a water sign, taking its time, kind of moving slowly. I think out of all three of the water signs, Scorpio might move the slowest. I mean, we've got Cancer in there too.
But Cancer's a cardinal sign, so I definitely get
cardinal,
that.
Right.
Scorpio has a different type of patience to it because it's a fixed water sign.
Exactly.
So it can definitely take a long time or do the same thing for a long time. It can go on repeat. All fixed signs can do that. All fixed signs can I have so much fixed energy in my chart, and I can definitely just
you've got a
do
stellium
things.
Scorpio, right?
Yeah.
What
and
I've got
I have my Sun and my Venus. I have my Mercury, my IC, and my Pluto. And then
if you are not my husband's chart right now, Jesus Christ. Like you guys do the same shit.
Leo is my rising. Then I have my North Node in Aquarius.
Oh, wow.
So these are all the fixed signs, everybody.
Yeah.
And then my midheaven and my Vesta asteroid are in Taurus.
Dani's like, I'm never going to change.
It's a lot. I can do the same thing, you guys. Like, my husband always says that that's like my serial killer trait. Like the amount of times I can eat the same meal, listen to the same song, watch the same movie. Like this whole, it's October, watch Hocus Pocus. I'm like, nope, that's one of my safe movies. I watched that. I've watched it like hundreds of, yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Oh, I was like this as a kid, and my mom would be like, not on repeat again. And I'm ridiculous. Yeah. I can do the same thing forever. So just making that first step. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have so much more cardinal and mutable energy in your chart. Exactly.
I've never been able to eat the same thing. I only can watch a movie once. I'm good after that. I'm good after that. I don't need to watch it again.
I latch. I'm so Scorpio. I'm like hooks.
That is crazy. That's so
for
funny.
life. I'm ridiculous about it. But yes, if you ask anyone close to me, I have an unnatural type of patience that most people don't have with most things. Like everyone can be a hothead or short-tempered about random things. But for the most part, I have a wild sense, birth of patience. It's insane. And I really think it's more because I just don't mind holding a state of being for a really long time.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean? That's fixed.
Yeah.
Fixed
holding
energy.
a state of being for a long time. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I don't have very much patience. It depends on what I'm doing. But most of the time I'm like, yo, if we don't hurry up and get to where we gotta go, that, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just oh my God.
That is
helping
hilarious.
my partner drive.
So true.
Ooh, girl. I had to get it together and be like, girl, he just got here. It's okay. He's going 40 on the expressway.
Why don't you know how to do this?
Dude, he's going 40 on the expressway. Move. I am like the red character from the show about the feelings. Just move. Ridiculous.
Oh my God. Honestly, another takeaway, especially for anybody that's getting a little more intermediate and advanced even in their astrology, look at your modalities like that. Go to your signs and look at the modalities. People forget they look at their element all the time. They look at the sign, but look at go look up what the cardinal, mutable, and fixed signs are, and go see where you have majorities and what you have lack of.
My majority
they're one
cardinal.
of the and they're one of the easiest concepts I think to get, even as beginners, because those three words are not exclusive to astrology. Those are three real things that exist in the world. Cardinal is not just an astrology term. So you can look those up and then look up what signs are associated with them. And it's one of the funniest, I think it's one of the funniest ways, because of conversations like this where it's so easy to be like, I'm definitely a fixed person.
Again, my partner has a big ass stellium in Scorpio like you, and he can too eat the same shit, watch the same movies. He's been watching this fucking Netflix show on repeat. How do you it is insane to me. It really is an art. I don't get it. And so when you were saying all the stuff that you do the same time, I'm like, if that is not my partner right now. And he's got almost all those planets besides the asteroids. I haven't looked those up, but all those major planets in Scorpio.
Oh, that's part of why I like looking up asteroids, by the way. You think you have empty
Mhm.
houses, you probably have even less too once you turn on the asteroids in your chart.
Very
And it's just
true.
like adding any other planets. People get really intimidated by that. I'm like, it's the same exact thing. Just look
Yeah.
at the meanings that they're associated with and
Mhm.
learn the sign that they're in.
The
Start to
asteroids are
understand their
fascinating.
personality. I
They're
love that. I find
fascinating.
them so fascinating. I
Yeah.
completely agree that
Mhm.
the asteroids are a whole other layer.
Yeah.
But there's no end to how deep that you can go this time of year. And right
Very
now,
true.
whether it's in your studies, whether it's in your personal development,
Mhm.
the best way to go about any of that is just be fucking real with yourself and try to be real with the people around you, dude.
That's it. That's it. In
Yeah,
true Scorpio fashion.
exactly. Ash, this was one of my favorites ever. This was just such a down and dirty fun
I love
astro
it.
conversation. I
I
know,
love
I love it.
it.
Let everybody know, especially for any new listeners, where can we
Yeah.
find you? Where can we follow you? How can we support you?
Yeah. So Ashley Michelle 90 Days, where you can find me on like IG, TikTok. At the time that you all are listening to this, I am doing a sale on my Lilith workshop actually. So
Get it. Get it.
yeah,
I've taken Ashley's workshop. She's kind of like, just so you know, anytime someone asks me about that placement in my school, anywhere, I always refer them to your workshop. So take advantage of Ashley having this on
yeah.
special.
I'll
Everybody,
I'll
it's in the
get you
show
the
notes.
link. Yeah, I'll get you the
Yeah,
link and put it in the show notes, but it's half off for Halloween weekend.
that's a big
So
deal.
it is a
Do
big
it.
deal. Yeah. So grab it. You'll have it for life and you'll learn a lot about yourself. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's where you can find me. Ashley Michelle 90 Days, Starseed Shadows is the biz name, starseedshadows.com if you want to book. That's where I'm at.
What a nice little gift that would be for self in this new moon, the
Mm-hmm.
Lilith
That's
workshop.
why I did
Just
it.
throwing that out there. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that a
Mm,
lot. This was such a good one. So much value for everybody. Thank you for joining me, Ash. This was so
of
good.
course. Thanks for having me.
Everyone, yes, of course. This was so needed, not just for all of you. If you're hearing
Mhm.
this and you're like, yes, this was such medicine for Ashley and I too.
Yeah, seriously.
So necessary. Yes.
Mm.
Everyone, thank you for your time, for your energy. We appreciate it every single episode. Remember to stay safe out there this Samhain weekend. Make sure that you're having fun. And of course, everyone, stay magical out there. Did you get something valuable out of today's show? Here's how you can help continue to grow our magic. First, you can head over to Apple or Spotify and leave a 5-star rating and review. You can also share a shout out on your social media page and make sure you tag me at thatwitch.nextdoor. And of course, you can just tell a friend that you think would enjoy the show and send them a link to the episode. Thank you so much, neighbor, for your support. I'll see you next time.